deafening, repetitive blare of the Aurora's Dream's emergency horn shattered the party. Ranger, a German shepherd with his paws on control panel, held the button down. A security guard lunged. "You stupid mutt. You've ruined everything." In that chaos, a scent cut to the perfume and salt, the acrid, greasy smell of smoke. It yanked Ranger's memory back to just that morning. Ranger's morning patrol at Greenwood University was a symphony of familiar scents, freshly cut grass, old books in the library, the faint tang of chlorine from the distant pool. His ears, perpetually swiveling like radar dishes, filtered the campus sounds. Chatter, bicycle bells, the hum of a lawnmower. He was a guardian in a world that didn't yet know it needed guarding. As they passed the old brick chemistry building, Ranger's head jerked sideways. His wet black nose flared, sucking in a rapid series of breaths. At Bonds Unspoken, we believe every heartwarming story, whether between humans or their animal companion, deserves to be told and heard. If you agree, please like, share, and subscribe, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you can join us every time another bond speaks louder than words. A sharp, acrid odor sliced through the morning's pleasant tapestry, a chemical tang, laced with something else, something hot and wrong. It was faint, a ghost on the breeze, but it tightened every muscle in his shoulders. He let out a low, questioning woof, pulling gently against his leash toward the building's side vent. "Not now, buddy," Leo said, distracted, checking his phone. "Professor Alden's waiting. No time for squirrel investigations." Leo's fingers scratched the base of Ranger's ear, a familiar apology in their language. "Not now, buddy." Ranger obeyed, but his pace was now stiff, his gaze locked on a receding building. The scent was filed away, a note of discord in his mind. Their destination was a remote field lab at the edge of the campus arboretum, a small prefab hut surrounded by sensor equipment. Leo was meeting the professor, Dr. Alden, to check on a soil moisture array. As they approached, Ranger's ears pinned forward. He heard it before Leo did, a ragged, strained breathing, punctuated by a soft groan. Dr. Alden was on the hut's small step, her face pale and sheen with sweat. One hand clutched her chest, the other white-knuckled the doorframe for support. "Dr. Alden?" Leo's voice shifted from casual to concerned in an instant. He quickened his pace. "Leo, I'm so dizzy," she managed, her words slurring. Her legs began to buckle. Leo caught her just as her knees gave way, lowering her gently to grass. "Okay, easy. Just sit. I'll call campus EMTs." Leo fumbled for his phone, his own hands trembling. The professor, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes now clouded with pain, shook her head weakly. "Service is terrible out here. Tried." Her breath hitched. "Leo, I'm so tired. I can't walk back." Panic flickered in Leo's eyes. The main campus was a 15-minute fast walk. He couldn't carry her. He looked from his fading professor to his dog, and a desperate idea formed. He grabbed Ranger's face, looking directly into his deep amber-brown eyes. "Ranger, listen, find a doctor." He said each word with urgent clarity. Go find help. Tell them we need help here." He pointed strongly down the path toward the heart of campus. "Go, Ranger. Help." Ranger didn't hesitate. The command was clear, the urgency in Leo's voice cutting through any confusion. With one last look at the two humans on the ground, he spun and launched himself into a full gallop run. His powerful legs ate up the gravel path, a blur of tan and black. The world narrowed to his mission. Find. Help. He burst onto the main quad, a place of casual strollers and students lounging on blankets. He skidded to a halt, scanning. He saw a man in a uniform, campus security. Ranger bolted to him, barking sharply, insistently. He circled the guard, then ran a few paces back toward the arboretum path, barking again. "Come, follow." "Whoa! Easy there, Shepherd," the guard named Harris said, holding up a hand. "What's gotten into you? Get out of here now, before I call animal control. No dogs off-leash on the quad." Ranger barked again, a sharper, more frustrated sound. He nudged a man's leg with his nose, then repeated the cycle. Run toward the path, stop, look back, bark. Harris, what's going on? A young woman, Maya, wearing an EMT trainee jacket, was walking over, curiosity on her face. This much gone nuts. Trying to herd me somewhere. Maya crouched slightly, looking at Ranger. She saw it instantly. This wasn't a playful dog. His body was rigid with focus. His barks were clipped and deliberate, and his eyes held an intensity that was almost human. I think he's trying to tell you something. As Harris scoffed, Ranger made a decision. He abandoned the unresponsive guard. He ran straight to Maya, sat directly in front of her, and let out a single loud, commanding bark. Then he gently took the sleeve of her EMT jacket in his teeth and gave a firm, insistent pull toward the path. Oh! Maya gasped, her training kicking in. He's not playing. He's alerting. Someone's in trouble. She stood up, her look changing to professional focus. Okay, boy. Okay. Show me. Show me. That was all the permission Ranger needed. He released her sleeve and took off. Not at a full sprint, but at a fast, steady lope, checking over his shoulder every few strides to ensure Maya was following. He led her off the quad, onto the winding arboretum path, a furry arrow pointing toward the crisis. Behind him, he heard Maya shouting into her radio. This is Trainee Volkov. I'm following a German shepherd into the West Arboretum. It appears to be a medical alert, requesting backup to my location. They reached the field lab in minutes. Leo was visibly relieved, holding Dr. Alden's hand. The backup EMTs arrived soon after, loading Professor onto a stretcher. As they wheeled her away, she gave a weak smile toward Ranger. Good dog. Leo knelt and buried his face in Ranger's neck. You did it, buddy. You perfect, brilliant dog. You did it. The praise washed over Ranger, but only partly. The taut wire of urgency in him had hummed for so long it hadn't fully gone silent. And then, as the ambulance doors shut, a new breeze drifted from the direction of the chemistry building. It carried that same acrid, hot scent from this morning, but now it was stronger, undeniable. It was the smell of smoke. Ranger's head snaps up, his body going rigid. He stares past the ambulance, past the trees, toward the source of smoke. A low, guttural growl rumbles in his chest. The first danger was human, and he helped. This new danger was elemental, and it was growing. He took a single, decisive step toward it. The praise forgotten. His work was not done. But how could a single dog stand against a growing fire? The chemical tang was now a stinging plume, a greasy, black smudge like a bruise on the sky above Greenwood University. Ranger broke into a sprint, leaving Leo calling after him in confusion. His world narrowed to that singular, malignant scent. It led him past the library, across the service road, and to the loading dock of the Hoffman Chemistry Building. Here, the smell was a physical wall, burning plastic, melting wires, and beneath it, the throat-catching threat of something volatile. Gray tendrils of smoke whispered from a cracked basement window well. Ranger planted his feet at the edge, barking furiously into the dark opening. His barks were met with the ominous, faint crackle of hungry flames. He spun, scanning the area. A security guard, Kofi, the same one from the quad earlier, was on his patrol route, strolling without a care. Ranger charged toward him, a deep, continuous alarm bark erupting from his chest. Danger. Here. Now. You again? Kofi sighed, exasperated. He put his hands on his hips. What is your problem? Last warning, Ranger. This is not a toy. You hear me? Get away from that building. But Ranger didn't retreat. He advanced, herding the man backward toward the building, his barks becoming snarling and insistent. He would not be ignored this time. Kofi's annoyance turned to anger, then to a flicker of doubt as he finally saw the German shepherd state. Every muscle corded, lips pulled back, eyes wide and white-rimmed with primal urgency. This wasn't disobedience. This was a warning. What the hell happened to you? Kofi muttered, his gaze following Ranger's pointed nose toward the window well. He took a hesitant step closer. What is it? A fresh, Thicker coil of smoke billowed from the well, carried on a sudden draft. Kofi's eyes widened. Fire? He took another step, peered over the edge, and recoiled from the wave of heat. Oh my God! Fire! Ranger, the alarm. The red box on the wall. G.O. Ranger didn't need the command repeated. He knew the red boxes. He'd seen them on every building. He bolted to the main entrance where the alarm pull station was mounted, just out of dog's reach. He leapt, his claws scrabbling against the smooth brick. He fell short. He tried again, throwing his full weight upward. His paw swiped the clear plastic cover, but couldn't apply pressure. Inside the building's foyer, a student, Priya, was heading out, earbuds in. She saw the frantic dog leaping at the wall and stopped, pulling one butt out. Ranger? What are you? Ranger turned to her, barked once, then threw himself at the wall again. He looked back at her, then at the box, then at the smoke now seeping under the exterior door. His meaning was clear. Priya's blood ran cold. She dropped her bag and ran forward. The alarm. You want the alarm. She slammed her hand against the plastic, breaking the cover, and yanked the red handle down. The world erupted in sound. A deafening, pulsating klaxon blared from the building, echoed by sirens from across campus. Light strobe. The calm campus afternoon was ripped apart. Inside, confusion turned to panic. Kofi's voice boomed over a megaphone, raw with authority. Everybody out. This is not a drill. Evacuate the building now. Move. Move. Doors flew open. A tide of students and faculty poured out, faces etched with fear, coughing as they hit the smoke-tinged air. The orderly flow quickly jammed at the main doors. Ranger, standing beside Priya and Kofi, saw the bottleneck forming. He remembered his purpose. Lead. Guide. He gave a sharp bark and pushed into the stream of people flowing from a side entrance. Follow the dog. Kofi roared, understanding dawning. He knows the way out. Follow Ranger. Ranger moved not toward the crowded main paths, but around the building's perimeter to a rarely used service road, a clear, open route to the safety of the main quad. He ran ahead, stopped, looked back, and barked, guiding the dazed crowd like a shepherd with his flock. Keep moving, a professor yelled, herding students along. Don't stop. Follow the shepherd. A first-year student, Ben, tripped and fell, his glasses skittering away. The crowd threatened to surge over him. Ranger planted himself over Ben, a low, thunderous growl erupting from his chest that cut through the panic like a knife. The few people in front stumbled to a halt, allowing Ben to scramble up. Ranger nudged him forward with his head before resuming his lead position. He led them all the way to the wide-open green of the central quad, a safe distance from the building. Fire trucks, their sirens wailing, screamed past them toward Hoffman Hall. Orange flames were now visible, licking at the upper-floor windows of the lab wing. The evacuated crowd stood in a stunned, coughing mass, watching their workplace burn. Kofi found Ranger, who was sitting at the edge of the quad, panting, his gaze fixed on the fireman. The guard knelt, his earlier anger replaced by awe. He placed a trembling hand on Ranger's head. You saved every single one of them. I thought you were just a nuisance. A problem. His voice cracked. Turns out you're a real hero, buddy. A real guardian. Kofi's trembling hand felt the rapid, steady thrum of Ranger's heartbeat against his palm. A smattering of applause started from the students, growing into a wave of relieved, grateful cheers directed at the panting dog. The applause meant nothing. The fire was a dry danger. This new sound was a deep, cold, rising one. Ranger had to choose, rest or investigate the river's warning. He ran. The thrum of the pumps was a frantic heartbeat against the distant, deeper roar of the Crescent River. Ranger's pace was relentless, a ground-eating lope that took him from the manicure quads of the university to the wild, muddy edge of the campus's northern boundary. The air here was different, thick, humid, in charge of the smell of wet earth, diesel from the pumps, and the potent, cold scent of churning, overflowing water. He crested a small rise, and the scene unfolded below. The river was a churning, coffee-brown monster, devouring its banks. It had swallowed its banks, turning the low-lying maintenance road and the old boathouse into islands in a brown, debris-choked torrent. The pumps were fighting a losing battle, spewing arcs of water back into the flood from higher ground. And there, on the submerged road, halfway to the stranded boathouse, was a university maintenance vehicle, a green electric cart. Its roof was just above water, and clinging to it, a figure. It was Elias, the groundskeeping supervisor. Ranger knew his scent of fertilizer and gasoline. The man was drenched, his knuckles white as bone on the pole, his breath puffing in rapid, ragged clouds in the cold air. The current swirled angrily around his chest, tugging at his body. He was shouting, but his words were ripped away by the river's noise and the pump's din. Ranger didn't stop to analyze. He scrambled down the slick embankment, his claws digging into the mud for purchase. He reached the water's edge, where the flood had already begun to lick at the grass, and barked a sharp, clear sound meant to cut through the chaos. "I am here." Elias's head snapped toward the sound. Hope, then despair, flashed across his face. "Ranger? No. Get back. The current's too strong. It'll sweep you away." He gestured frantically for the dog to retreat. "Save yourself. Go get help." But go get help was a command that had started this chain of events. And Ranger had seen the fire trucks, the ambulances, all occupied miles away at the chemistry building. He was the help. He barked again, refusing the order to leave. He took a tentative step into the icy water. It was shockingly cold, and the pull of the current against his legs was immense, a force of nature he'd never felt before. He backed out, shaking the water from his coat. He couldn't swim straight to Elias. The current would carry him past. His amber eyes scanned the flood zone. A path of semi-submerged objects led like stepping stones. A drowned picnic table, the roof of a storage shed, the tops of a line of young trees planted along the old road. It was a perilous, unstable route, but it was a route. With a focused energy, Ranger launched himself into the water, swimming not for Elias, but for the picnic table. He scrambled onto its slippery surface, water streaming from his fur. He gauged the distance, then leaped for the shed roof, his landing causing the structure to groan ominously beneath the water. "Ranger, no. Stop. It's not safe." Elias screamed, his voice breaking. He was certain the dog would drown before his eyes. "Please, just go. Don't do this for me." Ranger ignored the pleas. The language of fear was one he understood, but the imperative to act was louder. He moved from the shed to the first bent tree, using it as a springboard to the next. He was a dark shape moving with surprising grace across a drowned landscape, getting closer with each risky leap. He reached the last tree before a 10-foot stretch of open, fast-moving water separated him from the cart and the pole. There was no more path. Elias was close enough that Ranger could see the man's chattering teeth, the bluish tinge to his lips. "I'm stuck, boy," Elias cried, his strength clearly waning. "My foot, it's wedged in the cart. I can't pull free." Ranger stared at the rushing water. He looked back at the solid ground far behind him, then at the man. There was no leap he could make. He had to swim the gauntlet. He took a deep breath and pushed off from the tree. The moment he entered the main channel, the current seized him. The icy water clawed his fur, the current a massive, cold fist yanking him downstream. It yanked him past the cart in an instant. He fought, paddling with all his might, not against the current, but across it, angling his body like a fairy. It was a brutal, exhausting battle. For a terrifying second, he was submerged, only to fight his way back to the surface, gasping. His diagonal fight brought him back around, and the current slammed him into the side of the maintenance cart. The impact knocked the air from him, but his instinct screamed. As he scrabbled against the metal, his jaws snapped shut on the strap of Elias's overalls. He had a hold. Yes, yes. Hold on, Ranger. Hold on. Elias shouted, one hand letting go of the pole to grab a fistful of Ranger's thick fur at the scruff. The dog's arrival, his anchor-like presence, injected a surge of adrenaline into the man. With Ranger taking some of his weight, Elias twisted his body underwater, fighting against the wreckage that held his foot. There was a painful scrape, a tearing of fabric, and then his foot came loose. Suddenly, both of them were at the mercy of the river, tethered only to each other in the slippery cart. "We have to get to the boathouse," Elias yelled, pointing to the sturdier-looking building just 15 feet upstream, its foundation still holding against the flow. "It's our only chance." It was a joint, desperate effort. Elias, with a newfound strength, began pulling himself hand over hand along the side of the cart, Ranger paddling fiercely beside him, his grip on the overall strap never faltering. They were a single, struggling organism against the water. Every inch was a victory. They reached the corner of the cart closest to the boathouse. The gap was now only 6 feet, but it was a 6-foot wide chute of furious current. "Now, Ranger, now!" Elias took a huge breath, pushed off from the cart, and threw himself into the water, kicking with all his might. Ranger released the strap and swam beside him, his body acting as a buffer and a guide. The water tried to tear them apart, but Elias's hand remained fisted in Ranger's fur. Their combined momentum carried them across. Elias's free hand slapped against the boathouse's wooden siding, finding a window ledge. He clung on, heaving, and Ranger found paw holds in the timber. Together, half-drowned and trembling with exhaustion, they hauled themselves up onto a small, dry section of the boathouse deck, collapsing in a heap of gasps and shivers. Elias wrapped his arms around a soaked, panting dog, tears mixing with river water on his face. "You crazy, magnificent animal. You came back. You didn't let me fall." He buried his face in Ranger's wet coat, sobbing with relief. "Thank you. I don't know what I would have done. Thank you." They sat there as the river raged below, waiting for rescue, bound by a silence deeper than words. Ranger's job was done. The cold water's danger had been met, but as the adrenaline faded, a new sound reached the deck, not of water, but of music, faint, thumping bass and laughter, carried from further up the riverbank. It was the sound of a party, and a familiar, deep sense of unease settled in Ranger's gut. The peaceful silence after the flood was being polluted by a celebration that felt, in his bones, profoundly wrong. What threat could a party hold that was worse than a flood? The thumping bass wasn't just sound. It was a physical vibration in the planks of the dock. The Aurora's Dream, a 60-foot luxury yacht, was a blaze of light and noise moored at the university's private marina, hosting the annual end of semester splash for the rowing team. Laughter, clinking glasses, and the shriek of a DJ's microphone feedback cut through the night air. To Ranger, still damp from the river, it was a cacophony of recklessness. He moved silently up the gangplank, his dark coat making him a shadow against the polished teak. The first person to spot him was Chloe, the team co-captain, holding a red plastic cup. "Hey, that's the campus dog. Ranger? What's he doing here?" Her voice was amused, not alarmed. Then the yacht's owner and party host, Captain Silas Reed, emerged from the main cabin. His jovial mood vanished when he saw the German shepherd on his pristine deck. "Whoa, easy there. Off. This is a private event. No pets allowed." He clapped his hands sharply. "Shoo! Go on, get out." But Ranger wasn't looking at the captain. His head was down, his nose working overtime, sifting to the miasma of spilled beer, coconut sunscreen, and perfume. Beneath it all, thin and insidious, was a cloying, sweet stench of fresh gasoline, thin and lethal beneath the perfume. It made the hair on his spine bristle. He ignored the shouts and began to track it, his nose leading him toward the stern of the boat, near the sleek, enclosed rear seating area and the access panel to the engine compartment. "You stupid dog! What are you doing?" Silas stormed after him, his face flushing with anger. "You're ruining the party. It's all your fault." He reached for Ranger's collar. Ranger dodged, placing himself squarely in front of a small, vented door on the deck, the engine room hatch. He stood his ground, a low, steady growl emanating from his chest. It wasn't a threat to the man, but a warning about the door. "Hey, Scout! Ranger, where do you think you're going?" Another student laughed nervously. "You're not invited back there." Silas made another grab. This time, Ranger didn't dodge. Instead, he lunged forward, not to bite, but to herd, pushing his weight against the man's legs, forcing him to stumble back from the hatch. "That's it," Silas roared, humiliated in front of his guests. Someone call security. Get this animal off my boat now. The commotion was drawing everyone's attention. The music dipped as people turned to watch. Ranger, seeing the crowd focusing on him and not the danger, did the only thing he could think of to create a universal, undeniable signal. He spun and launched himself at the nearby illuminated control panel for the ship's horn. He hit the large, prominent button with his front paws. Buea Arp, Buea Arp, Scout. No, damn it, Ranger. Get down. Silas yelled. The sound was deafening at close range, an ear-splitting blast of noise that drowned out the music and every conversation on the river. People screamed, clutching their ears. The DJ killed his equipment. In the sudden, ringing silence that followed the horn blasts, another sound became audible to those closest astern, a faint but distinct, sinister hiss, like a pressurized spray. And the smell of gasoline grew suddenly, unmistakably stronger. Chloe, who was nearest, frowned. What is that smell? Is that gas? Silas, his anger momentarily replaced by confusion, took a step toward the hatch. He sniffed the air. His blood ran cold. All the color drained from his face. The party, the embarrassment, the dog, it all snapped into a horrifying new perspective. He looked from a hissing seam around the hatch to Ranger, who was now standing silently, watching him intently. "Oh, no," Silas whispered. He turned to the crowd, his voice climbing from a whisper to a roar command. "Everyone, listen to me. Get off the boat. This is an emergency. Move toward the gangplank and get on the dock now." Confusion reigned for 3 seconds. Then the raw, genuine terror in the captain's voice cut through. A controlled panic ensued. Students scrambled, dropping cups, helping each other up, flooding toward the single exit. Follow the protocol. Walk, don't run. Move. Chloe yelled, taking charge of flow. Silas grabbed a fire extinguisher from his mount and waved people past. Ranger, seeing his warning finally heeded, moved to the gangplank. Standing to one side, a calm, living statue amidst the rush, his presence oddly steadying. As the last few people stumbled onto the dock, a spark, from a faulty wire in the engine room, or perhaps a static discharge, found the fuel-rich air. Whumph! It was an explosion, but violent flash that blew the engine room hatch off its hinges, followed by a sudden, roaring whoosh of flame that engulfed the stern of the Aurora's Dream. The heat washed over the dock, making everyone stagger back. Stunned, the partygoers watched as the beautiful yacht became an inferno. Silas stood with the unused extinguisher, shaking. He turned his head slowly and found Ranger sitting calmly beside him on the dock, watching the fire. It was trying to warn me," a student murmured into the silence. "The horn!" He wasn't being bad. "He was setting off an alarm," said another. Silas sank to his knees, eye level with the dog. The reflection of the flames danced in Ranger's intelligent eyes. "Ranger, I misunderstood you." His voice was thick with shame and awe. "I blamed you for ruining the party. You were trying to save us. You smelled the leak. You knew." He reached out a trembling hand. Ranger, after a moment, leaned forward and allowed the man to touch his head. "I'm so sorry." As the fireboat sirens began to wail in the distance, a new commotion erupted at the edge of the crowd. A man's angry shout cut through the murmur of relief. "Thief? That dog is a thief." A vendor from a nearby campus food cart was pointing furiously at Ranger, then at an empty wrapper on the ground. Ranger's ears flattened. Fight this new accuser or flee? He ran. "Thief! That dog is a thief." The shout was a jagged knife through the somber, reflective atmosphere left by the yacht fire. All heads turned. A man in a flour-dusted apron, Tomas from the Need and Feed campus bakery cart, was pointing a furious finger at Ranger, then at a torn, empty wax paper wrapper on the cobblestones. His face was twisted in outrage. "He stole my sourdough roll, right off the counter. Come back here, you shameless little thief." The crowd's gaze, moment ago filled with awe and gratitude, now flickered with uncertainty and judgment. Whispers spread. "He steals. Maybe he's not so smart, just greedy." Ranger, still sitting where Captain Silas had apologized to him, flinched as if struck, his ears pressed flat against his skull, not in guilt, but in deep confusion. The grand, life-threatening dangers, fire, flood, gas leaks, were languages he could translate. This sudden, venomous anger over bread was a dialect he didn't understand. He saw Tomas start to advance, and instinct took over. He turned and ran, not with the purpose of a mission, but with the panicked flight of an accused creature. "Get back here!" Tomas yelled, giving chase. The spectacle pulled people from the dock, a baker chasing the campus hero dog. Ranger darted down a side alley between two brick buildings, his heart pounding a rhythm of injustice. He wasn't running to escape punishment for theft. He was running from the crushing weight of a lie he couldn't disprove. He burst out onto the quieter Scholar's Walk, a path lined with benches and old oak trees. Slowing to a trot, he held his head low. Anya, a student who had followed out of concern, watched from behind a tree. She saw it. The roll untouched, pristine in the dog's jaws, not food but a package. At the far end of the walk, nestled in the recessed doorway of a closed administrative building, was a small, neat bundle of blankets. A woman, Ilera, who the students knew as a quiet, non-troublesome presence near the campus, sat with her back against the door. Her eyes were tired, her clothes worn but clean. Ranger trotted straight to her. He stopped, sat before her, and with immense care, placed the intact sourdough roll on the clean edge of her blanket. He then took a single step back, his tail giving a tentative, low wag. Ilera's eyes, which had watched the approach with mild caution, softened, then filled with tears. "Oh, Ranger," she whispered, her voice raspy. "You remembered." She reached out a thin hand and picked up the roll. "For me? You brought this for me?" She had shared a piece of her cheese with him one cold morning weeks ago, a fleeting kindness he had never forgotten. From behind the tree, Anya watched this exchange with a hand over her mouth. She saw the dog's body language, not guilt, but hesitant offering. She saw the woman's tearful gratitude. The story rewritten itself in her mind instantly. But then heavy footsteps pounded up the path. Tomas, red-faced and heaving, skidded to a halt. He saw the roll in the homeless woman's hand, saw a ranger sitting nearby. His anger, fueled by the chase, found its target. "Aha! I've got you now, and you're feeding it to your accomplice." He strode forward, his hand raised to snatch the bread back. "No, please," Ilera said softly, clutching the roll to her chest. "He brought it for me. It was a gift." "A gift? He's a thief. That's my property." Tomas snapped. "Stop," Anya yelled, stepping out from behind the tree. She moved between Tomas and the doorway. "You're wrong. He didn't steal it for himself. He stole it for her. Look at him. He hasn't taken a bite. He delivered it. He saw someone hungry and he acted." Her voice was shaking but fierce. "That's not a thief. That's the dog who just saved 100 people on a boat, who saved a man from a flood, who saved a building full of students. Look at what he actually did." Tomas's raised hand didn't snatch the bread. It fell limply to his side. All the anger left his face, leaving behind something hollow and ashamed. His eyes, locked on Ranger, moved from the dog's calm, watchful face of the woman protectively holding the bread to the earnest, angry student defending him. The simplistic narrative of dog steals food crumbled, revealing the complex, heartbreaking truth beneath. A creature profound instinct acting with a purity of purpose he, a human, had been too blind and too angry to see. The fight drained from him. He looked at his own hands, the hands that made bread to nourish, which had just been clenched into fists to punish an act of nourishment. "Oh!" he breathed. The sound was a hollow exhale of utter defeat. "Oh, no!" He sank to his knees on the path, right there in front of Ilera, Anya, and the dog. His shoulders slumped. You poor soul," he whispered, staring at Ranger. His voice broke. "And you, ma'am. I'm so sorry. I didn't see." He fumbled in his apron pocket, pulling out not a single roll, but a small wax paper wrapped bundle of 3 fresh pastries. He placed them carefully on the blanket beside Ilera. "Please, take these. It's not enough. He then turned back to Ranger. The dog watched him, still wary. Tomas slowly, with no sudden movements, reached out. He didn't pet Ranger's head. Instead, he offered his closed fist to the dog to sniff, a gesture of canine respect. "I'm so sorry, Ranger. I yelled at you. I chased you. I called you names. You didn't deserve any of this trouble." A tear traced a clean line through the flower on his cheek. "It's my own damn fault. I saw the action, not the reason." Ranger sniffed the proffered fist. He lingered for a moment, then leaned forward and gently nudged the man's hand with his nose. A single, solid nudge. It wasn't just acceptance of the apology. It was an absolution. Tomas let out a choked sob and finally rested his forehead gently against Ranger's. Anya, watching, felt her own eyes sting. She pulled out her phone, not to film, but to text a group chat. "You won't believe what just happened with Ranger. The real story." Ilera spoke into the quiet, her voice clear. "He's a very good soul. He sees what most people walk right past." The news of the final incident, the theft that was a gift, the anger that turned to remorse, rippled through the campus faster than the news of the fire. By dusk, Ranger's day was the stuff of legend, not as a flawless symbol, but as a living, breathing guardian. Fierce against flames, steadfast against floods, vigilant against hidden poison, and endlessly, quietly kind. Leo found him that evening on the steps of their apartment, watching the sunset. He sat down and wrapped an arm around the dog, feeling the solid, reliable warmth of him. Ranger rested his head on Leo's knee with a deep sigh, his watchful eyes finally at peace. Leo's hand found the old scar on Ranger's shoulder, a relic from a long-ago mission. Now it was just them, the setting sun and the quiet, scentless breeze of a crisis past. The day's alarms were silent. His work was done. He was not just a good dog. He was Ranger. And the campus, once blind to his language, had finally learned to listen. If stories like this touch your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Bonds Unspoken. Every click helps us share more incredible moments that celebrate the bond between humans and animals. And be sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story that reminds us what true loyalty feels like.